Hey there, welcome to Contracts and Chaos. My name's Alyssa.
And I'm Brenna, and we're here to tell you that you are not alone in the mayhem of this real estate industry.
We're keeping it real and sharing our stories, strategies, and successes in today's real estate world.
So come join us every Tuesday while we talk contracts and chaos. All right, we are officially recording. So we have another guest with us today. This is Keith Sigmon. He is the owner of Simple Combat Solutions here in Newton, North Carolina. My husband and I have had the pleasure of actually training with him a couple of times. He offers a lot of classes for tactical training. That's long range, that's short range, that's self-defense. He does a lot with women in our area. And it's super important for us specifically as real estate agents, both men and women, to be super self-aware of what situations we're putting ourselves in. And a lot of times I think I catch myself in a situation sometimes where I'm like, ooh, should have let them go first, those kinds of things. And just really setting ourselves up to be able to pick up on those nuances in those situations, I think is priceless. So we've asked Keith to come join us on the podcast today, share some of his experience. He is a Marine.
So, before we get into what you do now, can you give us a little bit of your background? Obviously you were a Marine, but how did that and what experience have led you to teaching personal defense classes, especially for women and realtors? How did you get to where you are now?
So a little bit about my background. On the military side, I was actually an electronic geek. I repaired top secret communication equipment called crypto. And so I was stationed on the West Coast for a period of time at Camp Pendleton. And because of my clearance, I was attached to a special operations unit there on the West Coast. And during that time, that's where I got my background and foundation in weapons and unarmed combatives. And so when I got out of the Marine Corps, I just continued that. Went into martial arts, firearms training. So on the martial arts side, I'm a 6th degree black belt in Aikido. I had a dojo for about 25 years in Newton. I recently, probably 2 years ago, I closed the dojo. And so now I just teach private lessons. So I teach a blend now of Aikido, Muay Thai, and Israeli Kapap, that's the military version, the original version, which eventually became Krav Maga. So I teach a blend of that. It seems to be most effective, especially for women. In the dojo, you work for years to get your belts, and it takes a long time. A lot of people don't have patience for that. And so dojo is different than reality training. You have a controlled environment in the dojo. On the street, in reality, you do not. So I teach a reality-based tactics now. On the gun side, so I'm an NRA instructor with 5 different certifications in that. So I teach a blend of things. I teach concealed carry once a month here locally, and then I travel and teach concealed carry for a national company called Legal Heat. So I'm a contractor for them. I'm also a contractor for a sister company to Legal Heat, which is PHH, Protect His House. So I go into churches around the state and train their security teams, which we call safety teams for liability purposes. And so I teach the safety teams everything from de-escalation to treating trauma to disgruntled visitors who don't like the message, how to deal with that, to active shooter training, which is the worst case scenario. Yeah. So I do that. I go into companies and on the corporate side, and I train companies, the employees on active shooter preparedness.
That's awesome.
So I'm kind of all over the board.
Yeah, but and you do it all very well too. And I've seen some of your videos from the hand-to-hand combat trainings and things like that you've done. And I think that you're right as far as there being a controlled environment aspect of it and versus real life scenario. Even the times that Travis and I have trained with you and just adding that little bit of adrenaline and that little bit heart pump going, it can throw you all off so quickly. So I think that that's super important. But I had no idea that you started as a tech tech guy and then
Hmm.
morphed into all of this.
Right?
I would
I
have
just was
assumed
in the
that you
right place at
started
the
in
right
this to
time.
begin with.
Yeah, yeah. So I was just happened to be in the right place at the right time. So uh, the cat's back.
Well, that's good. Um,
But as far as the women, you were talking about training women. I I focus more on the women because typically females are the victims in most cases. They're usually the recipient of the attack. So that's why I work more with women. And I think I might have mentioned this to Brenna before, but some of my clients have had bad history, whether it be domestic violence, uh, sexual assault, rape. In a couple situations, it was abduction. So that's why I deal more with on the women's side
y-
and girls' side.
yeah, and that's something. So specifically today, what would you say that you would just like um, the vocabulary? What you would give the definition of situational awareness and why it's important for us as real estate agents and us as specifically the two of us women? Why it's so important for us to have that situational awareness when
Right.
meeting clients or showing houses alone, those kinds of things.
Well, for example, my daughter, she's 21, college graduate, lives in New York now. She's much smarter than me because she's a college graduate, right? So you can't tell her anything. But so here's my daughter walking around like in public,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Guilty.
all this, no situational awareness whatsoever. So if you have, let's say you have a threat in a parking lot and they're looking for a target, that they're looking for somebody that's preoccupied,
Hmm.
whether it be this or putting your child into a booster seat in the car, putting your groceries or packages in the car. That's what they're looking for. If they see someone like you that are, your head's on a swivel, you're aware of your surroundings, that's not their target. That's that simple. On the realty side, I know you guys are very visible. You have your pictures out there, to promote your business and yourselves. So if you get someone with bad intentions and they kind of attach themselves to you, I call it trolling. So if they're doing that, then they'll set up an appointment, to see a house. I know that isn't that what's happened in was it Mecklenburg County? Was that
Yep.
situation?
Yep.
Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
realtor recently. Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously you guys vet your clients, I hope. So that's
Yes.
one way of doing it. But when I was down in Lincolnton the other week with the Lincoln County Board of Realtors, some of their members, um, one of them had a concern when they're opening the lockbox on the door.
Mhm.
You know, sometimes the people would be behind them, and I gave them a suggestion. I said, well, without offending them, just say, this is a privacy issue. Would you mind standing over there, please? That's a good way of just you don't insult them, but it's like it's a security thing with the lockbox.
Yep.
That way you can keep them in your peripheral awareness.
Yep.
Does that make
Yep.
sense?
And
That
then
makes
sometimes
total
too,
sense.
if I have just like one singular showing scheduled that day, I actually schedule the appointment for 15 minutes before I tell my clients that we have the scheduled appointment. And I'll go get there ahead of time, have it unlocked, have all the lights on in the
Good, yeah,
house
good
ahead of
idea.
time because, like you said, at that point, it eliminates if we're going in together and then I'm turning on lights and things like that with them right behind me. If I can have that house ready to present and just I can stand
Right,
there and let them go first. I've gone and
exactly,
it makes you look really good to your clients too. Like, hey, I've already got here. Doors are all unlocked. All the lights are on. Peruse. If you have
yeah.
questions, let me know. But and unfortunately, you do have to be that way. But it's hard if you have multiple showings stacked up and then you're following to the next appointment kind of thing. But if you can do that, it makes a difference, and then you can just say help yourself, and then follow them through the house.
Exactly.
Well, and I think
And it's
that's
it's intuition
Hmm.
too, and women have better intuition than men. So you can pick up on
Hmm.
things,
and
body language, everything. So that also helps.
I think that's also something like when
Yeah,
we are doing like buyer presentations, you could have that conversation then and say, "Hey, on days where we are at multiple showings, let me get the lockbox undone and then meet me at the door." And just say it's a privacy thing for the client, for the
yeah,
seller, and that
absolutely.
sets that there. So then if they break it, there's a red flag right there where you're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
and you can, reiterate, hey guys, remember when I said, and if they don't, then we're not going in that house. Like, sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know several of the female realtors that I know personally, when possible, they take their husbands with them, to the showing. And sometimes the husbands are ones that are they're proactive anyway. They may even be in the business with their wives, but so it's always good if you have someone with you. I know that's not always practical to do that.
Yeah. For the first year, Travis went with me for open houses, for showings, things like that. Like less now. I guess he's a little more. He either got sick of doing it, or he's a little more trusting of my.
Well, you're pretty tough. I've been on the range with you, so you take care of yourself.
I
Right,
would
I
like to
would-
think so.
I would not want to meet Brenna in a dark alley if
No.
she was mad at me.
Her and her husband shoot very well.
Well, that's good. That's good. I have not shot in forever, actually. There's a
Shame
group of
on you.
us. I
Shame
know.
on you.
No,
That's right.
shame, double shame on me, because my stepfather teaches a bunch of the classes you teach, not the self-defense ones, but this concealed carry, I don't know, all the recertifications for police officers. My mom has her FFL.
Okay.
And every time he comes down, I get scolded for not having been to the range in forever. So I already wrote your name down. I'm going to get your phone number from Brenna. But what are some, we've talked about, like, obviously people crowding a lockbox, trying, or you at the door. What are some other red flags that I know we've experienced, but maybe, you teach classes with realtors, that maybe you've heard or that you think we should be aware of in any situation as a realtor? Obviously, we have the app where we run phone numbers through to go do a background check. But are there any other red flags you think we should be picking up on that wouldn't be something we would automatically be like, oh, that's a red flag?
Well, a lot of things. I mean, I profile everybody. It's not a racial thing. I think everybody profiles people. It doesn't mean it's a racial issue. It's just common sense. We do that at the sheriff's department when they come in the courthouse. We do that there. Everything from even simple things like what vehicle are they driving? Do they have certain bumper stickers or decals on the windows? Anything like that could be a red flag. If they're looking at I know it sounds bad, but if they're looking at a very expensive piece of property and they drive up in a very old, beat up vehicle, that's a red flag. Does that make sense? A lot of things like that would be a red flag.
Yep.
Again, their body language, a lot of that. If they're very jittery, they're, with their hands in and out of their pockets and things like that, that's a red flag.
Yeah, and even just as simple as when I feel like when we're pre-qualifying, like you said, having those conversations up front, like if they're not like forthcoming with information and just kind of like dodgy and like, oh yeah, I'll get you that, and oh yeah, but can we do this? Can we just go ahead and see the house? And I won't do it. Like if we don't have XYZ set up ahead of time, like I'm checking your phone number to see if you a speed for a living or if there's something actually more serious on your record, because I'll just refer that out to perhaps a male agent and let them know, like, hey, I'm just not comfortable. I see that they have domestic charges from maybe 6 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. But again, that's just something that I'm not going to put myself in that situation for a paycheck,
Well, and I think that's something, and I'm thinking through what y'all are saying right now and how I behaved this weekend. And not saying I'm desperate for business, but when agents get desperate, when our pipelines get dry and we're like, we'll take whatever you throw at me right now because I need a closing, those red flags turn into yellow flags.
They do.
And
Blinders on.
or we skip steps. Like I got a referral this weekend from another agent. So it's another agent. I know she's worked with them. So no need maybe to run as much of a background check. But now I think about it, I'm like, what if they had just called? Would I have behaved differently if they had just found me on Google versus a referral? Because my crazy client was a referral. So is that even a filter? Like, should we definitely, I'm not even going to say should we should be still performing those checks and balances before we take those clients out or those potential clients.
And I don't know what your process is, but if you're talking to a prospective client and they're not asking particular questions or specific, like they don't even ask about the amenities of the house or they just want to see the house, that obviously would be a red flag too.
Yeah.
They just want to get to the house.
Yeah.
Right.
There has
Does that
to
make
be
sense?
some sort
Yeah.
of curiosity, or I mean, because like
Mhm.
you said, like if they're looking at this house because they want it to be a forever home, and they're like, oh well, I see the garage doesn't have access into the house, that might not
Yeah.
work for us. Or if they're just like, yeah, well, we'll figure it out when we get there. Sometimes we have to
Yeah.
pre-qualify the houses just as much as we do the buyers
Right.
at that point. But what are there's instances, not even necessarily that could be in person too. There's inappropriateness from
Mhm.
conversations as well. So there's all kinds of boundaries that we have to set in our businesses. But what are some ways that we can kind of, I mean, politely, Travis will tell you that I'm not even aggressive enough sometimes, but politely creating those boundaries and saying, like, it's very kind that you think I'm beautiful and all, but like, this is a business
Yeah.
transaction kind of thing.
Yeah. If they get too personal, that's not appropriate. And I may not be the one to ask because that's not really the way I approach things.
I like that. I like that.
I mean,
I'm like, no. I had a client bring up inappropriate things on a recent transaction. I literally said, "You're not going to talk about that in front of me, and if it comes up again, we're done." Like,
yeah, you have to
no.
be firm. And I guess I get that from people I deal with at the courthouse, or um, you have to let them know, you know, you can't be you can't be soft and you can't be apprehensive
Mm-hmm.
because they pick up on that,
Yep. One
and then they'll exploit
Yeah,
that.
and do it quickly too. So,
Hmm.
for example, like I put my clients, if it's a boyfriend girlfriend, if it's a husband and wife, like we're all in a group chat. Like I'm not doing this. I'm talking to one of you and then you talk about it, because at one point I had a group chat and the gentleman was like messaging me off of that, and I was like, oh hey, by the way, like you looked really nice today, and I was like, I mean, you want me to just like loop whoever, I'm not even going to say her name, but loop her back in on this conversation because I appreciate
Right.
it. I can let her know where I got these pants. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, what am I supposed to do like
Right?
that?
Just send a polite text that says, "Hey, Julia, just wanted to let you know John thought my pants were
We're
great today.
great today.
Here's
Exactly.
the link for," and I
They're
would put that
on
right in the
sale
group
at
chat.
Target.
Absolutely. You know, on the phone thing, if you pick up that, like with a client, a gentleman at a house, you can get on your phone and you could even if you pretend like you're calling your
Mm-hmm.
husband and say, "Yeah, I'm almost finished here. You want to come by here, and then we'll just take a car and go eat or something, anything like
Yep.
that, to let them know that your husband or whoever your family member is on their way over or to meet you that way." Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Hmm.
That would be. I know it sounds kind of corny, but something like that could be
Hey,
enough.
but it works. All it
Yeah.
has
Right.
to
Yeah.
do is if they had a plan and it throws them off their plan a little bit, like sometimes that's
Yeah.
all it
Exactly.
takes, is just to be like, oh, well, maybe not. If he's 10 minutes out, they're going to start looking sooner than I really wanted them to, kind of thing.
Right? Or
It's like
I'm
the parking lot situation. When I always tell ladies, if someone comes up to you in the parking lot and they put a gun in your face, say, "Get in that car, or I'm gonna shoot you."
don't get in the
Don't
car.
you don't get in the car.
Don't get in the
Mm,
car.
If you get in the car, it's going to be worse.
Yeah, never let them
So
take you to a second
n-
location.
yeah.
never
Ever.
ever get in the car. Just take off running. They're not going to shoot you. It's kind of like at the house. They don't want to be discovered or caught or detected. So they're not going to shoot you in the parking
Right.
lot.
Chances
Why would they
are
do that?
it's going to
It
startle them.
defeats their
Hmm.
purposes. It defeats their purposes of what they were going to do to you. So just take off, run for help. So, but you see it time and time again. They'll pull a knife out or a gun, say, "Get in that vehicle," and they get in the vehicle.
Hmm.
I don't know why they would do that. I guess they're just afraid.
Yeah. It's like self-preservation at that point, but that's
Yeah.
not actually what happens, unfortunately.
No.
No, it's not.
And I'm also always very upfront, like especially if it's a somewhat sketch neighborhood or something. And usually it comes up because my client has said something, but I will always like tap my bag or wherever I'm concealing and be like, "Don't worry, I've got us," so that everyone knows
Yeah.
there's something. And like, I have bright, sparkly purple pepper spray that hangs on my keys. My keys are always in my hand, like phone in one, keys in the other. I grew up with a dad who's a boat captain, so it's always one hand for yourself, one hand for the boat. So myself is the pepper
Exactly.
spray, and the boat, I guess, would be the phone to make sure. there's other things we're always taught, like never park in the driveway, but if you have to, back in so you can pull out. I wasn't in a weird situation the other day, but I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, I backed in and the new car is all-wheel drive. I could just run over people. It's like a tank now. But what are some other, we've talked about like the lockbox. We've talked about like don't get in the car if you are approached, things like that. Do you have any other like specific tactics to protect ourselves while showing houses? We've talked, Brenna brought up, we always walk behind them. We don't let them get behind us. Make sure the lights are on. But is there anything you can think of that we haven't covered, like specific to a realtor, male or female, that we should be aware of, like specific self-defense tactics?
Well, as far you mentioned the pepper spray, that's OC spray. I don't know what you carry. I've confiscated. I don't know how many of the ones you're talking about with the nice glittery thing.
Yeah.
On it.
It's not worth much. It's not going to do much. But
Well, let me tell
thought
you
is
about
them
that.
seeing it. They know, like I'm not gonna.
On the chemical spray, I always tell everyone I'm certified. I'm a certified instructor in that also. So on the OC, you're looking for one with 3 ingredients. I know that Mace brand has it. Mace is a brand. It's not a generic term.
Right.
MACE. I know they have it. I think there's 3 companies that are really good: Mace, Fox, Fox, and Sabre, Sabre. I know Mace has it. It has 3 things in it. It has 3 ingredients. It has OC. That's the pepper spray, which affects this area, your sinuses and your eyes, and it's got tear gas. Now, as civilians, we're not allowed to have pure tear gas. Only law enforcement and military. But there is a percentage, I forget what it is, that's legal. That legal percentage is in that. I know Mace has one of those, and that affects the lungs, respiratory. That'll shut that body down where they can't. It's hard for them to pursue you. And then it's got a dye in it. That dye will color them. So if they leave and if law enforcement finds someone matching the description and they put a black light on them, it'll light them up like a Christmas tree and they can't wash it off.
That's amazing. I just wrote
So
down
you want the
all
one
3
with
of
3
those.
ingredients.
Yeah.
Right. That's like
Yeah.
like the bank robbers with the dye pad.
Yes.
That's
A
I
lot
didn't
of
know
them
the
have
third
the
part was a
dye.
thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of them have the dye. Yours may have it,
I'm
but
gonna look
most
at
of
it,
them do
yeah.
not have the tear gas.
Wow. Yeah, and that tear gas
tear
is something
gas is-
too, because you've got like, especially if you're right next to a big old guy. I mean, you've met my husband. Like, if I
Yeah.
pepper sprayed Travis and he could have his eyes closed and still like probably hold on to me pretty good, you
Yeah.
know?
So you want the tear gas in it. I don't know if I think you can get it on Amazon, but it's not anything you're going to get at Walmart and probably not even Academy. Some of the bigger stores, like ones I teach out of, like Sportsman's Warehouse, Bass Pro, Cabela's, I think they have that one I'm talking about. And I'm pretty sure, at least in North Carolina, you can order it on Amazon.
Nice.
But look for the Mace brand with those 3 things in it.
I wrote
And-
down all the ingredients. So
I'm
And it'll have a paddle. Also, for everyone listening, don't get the one with the safety switch. Does yours have the little safety
See,
switch?
now I'm gonna have
Or
to
does
go
it have
shopping today because mine probably doesn't have any of this, but I know it has a little safety switch. I
Okay,
bought it
here,
at Lowe's.
safety-
I was like, ooh, it's purple and sparkly.
No. Safety switch is a fine motor skill. That's the first thing to go when you're being attacked. That's a fine motor skill. That's why I don't like safeties, manual safeties on guns, on carry guns. Fine motor skill. Good. You want the ones with the paddle. It's a pad. I don't have one here. I'm not at my office at the moment. So it's got a paddle. You just put your finger up under the paddle. That is your safety mechanism.
Okay.
And then you can do that in the dark. You don't even have to look for it.
Yep.
Finger under the paddle and go to town.
that's awesome.
So on the OC, that's what you want. The other things you could carry, either a Kubaton, which is a martial arts weapon, probably about the size of a marker or a pen. It is a martial arts weapon. You can put it on your keychain or something. It's most of them are made out of the Kydex or the polymer, like your Glocks are, the lower part. They won't break. A lot of them have a glass breaker. Problem is they're illegal to bring, like in a courthouse where I'm at, or an airplane, for example. So get yourself a tactical pen. You can Google it. What's that?
Tactical
Marker.
pen.
There you go.
It's
Is that a tack pen?
it's an off
Okay.
brand. They call it a Sharpie. But I tell
Is that a
It's a
yeah,
oh,
blade.
is that a sharp
Mm-hmm.
point?
mm-hmm.
Okay, so that yeah, so that you won't be able to get in TSA. Uh, what you did? Really?
Multiple times,
Wow. Usually
which is
that the
scary when you
sharp
think
Yeah,
about it.
right.
the
But
sharp
yes,
point usually will be a red flag.
it's made
But as
out
far
of
as a tactical
graphite,
pen that writes, yeah,
so it
if you get
doesn't.
one that writes, got a good ink cartridge in it, I've thrown that in TSA bowls. They didn't say a word. If I threw a Kubotan in that bowl, we'd have a
Right.
serious conversation.
Yes.
So it's another good way. The one of those uh, they won't break, and so when I teach tactics with improvised weapons like that, I teach how to remove the eyes, the throat, the lungs, whatever with that. So that's another thing you can carry other than the OC
Yeah, I
personal
got
spray.
this because I travel alone a lot, and often to states where I can't conceal, because I have flown with my firearm before. But my stepdad, his one, if you ever, not that any of you will ever be in my bedroom, but if you ever come to my bedroom, there's always 2 large cans of soup next to my bed. And people are always like, what is this? And his one thing that he teaches us is you need to distract someone and you need to be able to do something before you pull your firearm necessarily because it may
Hmm.
not be the first thing you can reach. So you throw the first one, you smash their brain in with the second one, and then you grab your gun if you can.
I like that.
But that was my thought process here. I was like, well,
Yeah,
if it's in my bag and it's not easily accessible, this is always clipped in like the pocket of my
yeah,
pants. This is going to be the first, and then that will
right.
distract them enough if I need to grab my firearm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the anti-gun ladies, especially I work with, like where their husbands travel or they live alone and they don't want their gun. So usually, as far as at their house and their bedroom, I'll just tell them to get some bear spray.
Bear spray, I've
Now
heard, is
it'll be unpleasant for them being in the same room, but it will definitely it's got a long range and it will at least maybe run them out where you can. Because I also go into homes sometimes and I set up safe rooms for people. It's usually for ladies that either with or without kids, where the husband travels or they're a widow or something, and I'll show them how to set up a safe room in the house, what to put in the safe room, how to barricade a door properly. Always keep a phone in there that's no longer used. If you get a phone like you get a new phone and you keep your old phone, uh, as long as it will charge, it will call 911 even without a SIM card in it.
nice.
So keep it in that room that you may have to barricade in place, because your bag or your purse or something may be on the kitchen counter when you retreat to that safe area with your weapon or whatever. That way you can call law enforcement.
Well,
Have a
hey.
chem light in that room. Throw that chem light out the window. Call 911. Say, I'm in this end of the house. I just threw a green chem light out the window. That way law enforcement knows where you are. Because when they do show up, if it's Catawba County, they'll be there really quick because we're awesome
Yes.
at Catawba County. But they'll sweep that house and they'll come in with hot weapons. So they need to know where you're
Yeah, and
at.
I've heard that too. And I mean, now Travis can't give me a hard time about keeping my old cell phones. I'm going to tell him it's for self
Yeah.
defense. But the other thing that I've also heard, same thing, if you're in a room and you like barricade yourself in, is if, you have, for a safe room specifically, because I don't carry spray paint with me, but to spray paint on the window, same thing, so they know where you're
Same
at.
way to mark it.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And that would be a thing, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong. I've seen like those little birdie like self alarms. People, they're all over like Christmas shopping ads right now. But that could be something like if you're showing a house and you for some reason have to barricade, you could throw that out the window, like trigger it,
can.
and
Yeah.
because then they would know. Then you don't have to carry a big can of spray paint or something. That would be a
Yeah.
way to get, hey, I'm in this room and I threw my birdie alarm because it makes a
Yeah, I
loud
mean
chirping
that's
noise.
true. As a realtor, it may be something where you'd have to barricade in place in a house you're showing. Now, if it's an empty house with no furniture or anything, that might be a little more difficult
hard.
to do that.
Yeah.
as
And that
far
kind
as-
of leads into the next question that we have, as far as certain precautions that should be taken before, during, and after a showing for safety. And we've talked about, arriving early, unlocking the door, turning the lights on ahead of time. For me, though, I'm curious to see, and we've talked about like walking behind them during all of that. for me, it's the end. I'm always like, I go back and forth with the, do I lock everything up, turn everything off while we're getting ready to walk out, or do I, walk them to the door and say, you know what, I'll see you next time, and then go back through, because I feel like that's a bad idea to leave myself back in the house by myself after they've left. So for me, I usually go through, and as we're discussing details, I'm turning lights off. We walk to the door together, lock the door, and then I leave. I don't wait for them to leave. I leave.
Okay.
And I don't know if you were in that situation, what you would say to do, because some people say, like, you can't leave until your clients leave because of liability reasons. And for me to just sit in the car, if somebody was to come to my car, you know what I mean? You're still, like, left in a situation of not necessarily preparedness.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a realtor, but I would want to see them leave the property before I left. That's just me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd walk them out and say, thank you. Let me know if you have any other questions.
Would you wait? Would you wait in the house, or would you wait in your car? Because this is just
for them to
learning for
leave?
me. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I always feel I'll be more comfortable in my car, just because that's where all my guns are.
Right.
But
Well, that,
yeah,
and I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
if you're in your car and they try to do something, I'm just gonna run them
Run
over.
away. Yeah.
Like,
Well,
and then
in
I'll
North
call the
Carolina,
listing
you
agent and
guys,
be like, sorry.
yeah, and you guys know this. I'm hoping. Both of you have concealed carry, right?
I do.
Yes,
Correct.
sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So your vehicle is your domicile. So it's the same as them trying to force their way into your house. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Because you see like up north. I don't go north, by the way. I don't go north of I-40 because they're crazy up north. I don't know where your dad lives, but where's he live?
New York.
Like Canadian border. He'd probably agree with you. Listen.
It's crazy up there. I mean, I could go on and on about the laws up there. My daughter wanted me to come visit her in New York, and I said no, negative.
Where in New York is she?
Brooklyn.
Oh yeah. Okay, so hard stop right here
I
for
know
a second. Way
yeah.
different. So the part of New York I'm from is Catawba County.
Yeah.
Like that's
rural.
what it's like.
Rural New York.
Very rural, rolling green hills, lots of farms. Yeah. New York
There's two
City,
different
Brooklyn,
types,
the burgs or whatever, it's the boroughs, completely different beast. But unfortunately, yes, the laws are somewhat similar in different areas. But yeah.
Yeah, I tell everybody you're good as far as reciprocity and all that. You're good all the way up to Maryland. Don't get caught with a gun in Maryland. Mm-hmm. They are very anti-gun in Maryland. My joke is always, if you have your gun and you're going through Maryland, you get stopped. No, officer, I just love Jesus. I'm a pacifist, and I respect the laws of your great state.
And make sure you don't have any bumper stickers that say otherwise.
No, right. Absolutely. Yeah, and on the sticker thing, I try to tell people, don't have stickers on your vehicle that alert people. Mm-hmm. It's either gonna tip them off that they need to break into your vehicle and steal that gun, or it's gonna possibly cause you to be on the receiving end of something.
Yeah,
right.
Same way for your house. I know people they have these signs at their house. If you're found here at night, you'll be here. Don't put stuff like that. Because if you ever had to use deadly force to stop a threat at your home, well, when they come to investigate, that's the first thing they're going to do is take pictures of those signs, and it will end up in court.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because unfortunately, we are at the mercy of a district attorney in the county in which it happened. Mm-hmm. So, like Catawba County, we're much better off here with the awesome DA that we have versus Mecklenburg County or Chapel Hill area or Asheville. So that's something else to be aware of. People always ask me in class, well what if such and such? You mean if I catch somebody stealing my lawnmower, I can't shoot them? No, I'm sorry, you cannot. That's property. So a lot of people have a misconception about deadly force. So I always tell the ladies I train, you have an advantage in court. It's optics in court because normally your attacker is going to be bigger, stronger. It's all about optics. And so you need to know the laws on deadly force. Women have an advantage, which they should have. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think back to bumper stickers real quick, that also goes for like advertising your business and your family. Every time I see those little family stickers that shows, mom, dad, 4 kids.
Shouldn't do
Jackson
that.
likes basketball.
Don't
Joanne
give
likes
names out.
like soccer. I'm like, What are you? I was never growing up allowed to have my name on things like varsity
No.
jackets, hard stop, no. And one, because both my fathers are law enforcement or former law enforcement. And two, because my mom in the, I guess it would have been late 60s, early 70s, had a varsity jacket on with her name on it. And a stranger approached her in public and said, "Hey, Jamie," and like struck up a
Yeah.
conversation. And no one knew who this person was.
Mhm.
And that is just like people put those realtor stickers on or the realtor license plate frame or your family or what, like you are asking to get
Yeah.
the attention you don't want.
Mhm.
So you guys, do you have the magnets on your car or not?
Nope.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, some do. I noticed some have the Remax or whatever the company is, and I never thought that was a good idea. I mean, you don't. Why do you want to advertise your vehicle? I mean,
Especially the way I drive.
Yeah, right. I don't need them knowing
yes.
my name and
Well,
phone number either.
that's why I have to be careful when I drive because I have SCS all over my truck,
Uh-huh.
and my truck's hard to miss. So I try to be very polite.
Are you
Right.
aware of any technology or apps that you would recommend for real estate agents, or I mean the general public, really, to improve our communication with people outside, like our location in real time, for example?
Okay. Well, I know you know everybody has the tracker on their phone,
Mhm.
the locator thing. Um, there, I'll just throw this out there. I know people that do this for different reasons, depending on their business or what they do. But there's all kind of body cams you can get. A lot of body cams that there might be a pin. They're out there and they're very inexpensive and they're Bluetooth.
That's a good
So
idea.
that's another thing to consider. I mean, I know people that have them and you would never even notice it. You don't have to have the body cam like the deputies wear. I mean, they have pins, they have glasses, necklaces. There's cams in everything, and that would be another thing that I would suggest if you're looking for other ways to just add more layers of security.
Yeah.
You know, all we're doing is just adding layers of security, whether it be her magic marker there with the sword in it or whatever she's got. So you're adding layers of security, whatever that is.
No, that's good. I like that.
So I would check into cams.
Yeah, I didn't know those were a thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I will
A
say
lot of those out there.
I've never felt more safe. I actually just closed with him last week. I just sold a house to a Mecklenburg County Sheriff's deputy, and every showing he showed up full uniform because he was just leaving work, and I was like, "This is awesome! Like my pockets are empty. Like I don't have to carry a bag." And I
Well, do
literally said to him
nothing,
at closing, I was like, "Well, this is a bummer.
Yeah, I'm really
like, can I
bummed
hire
out.
you?" Like,
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. No, I have I would say Travis has my location, but he doesn't
Yeah.
check his phone enough to be like helpful in a situation, honestly. He would
Right.
find out 30 minutes an hour later. So my sister, who actually still lives in Maine, she has a desk job, and I will, if I'm showing, she has my location anyways, but I'll be like, I'm at this house, these are the clients' names, I'll be done in 15 minutes, and I'll call her or I'll text her and let her know that I leave. And it works out really well because she'll just leave like my location up on her desktop at work, and she knows when I leave and things like that. And there's been instances where a showing took too long or whatever, and she'll call and
Right.
I'll be like, no, we're just wrapping up, like that, and I'll answer the phone because we've had like I want to have somebody who's like, if I don't answer the phone, like she's gonna call Travis, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I have that set up as well, so I have kind of like a little bit of
I do the same
backup.
thing. Yeah, I have Aaron and Ron. I think both have, which are other realtors I work closely with. My best friend Eric, my mom, and someone else all have my Ariel now has it
Mhm.
24/7. I'll give it to you if you want. You should give it to me probably.
Mhm.
Not that I'll ever stalk. The only reason I stalk my mom is like when I'm waiting on a Wegmans delivery and I'm like, "Where are you?"
If you go to the store yet.
Right. But I think that's a great tool
Mhm.
and a great way to say, hey, like, or like, I'll even, if there's a way you can set it, and I did it a couple days ago when I was playing with a new laptop. Like you can set it so if you tap the back of your phone twice or different haptics on your phone, that it will automatically send your location and a quick message to certain people. And I had it set on the old phone that, like, if I ever got pulled over or was in an accident, bump, bump. And it would send a text to both my mom and Eric to say, this is where I am. And I've been in a car accident or I've been pulled over. That's probably also a great thing because you can do it quietly, bump, bump. It's going to send a text to certain people to alert them to please call the police. This is where I am.
Yeah. There's settings like that on like the Apple Watch too. Like you can click the button 3 times and it'll pop up. Like if you don't put in your PIN code within 10 seconds, it'll alert the authorities with your location too. Like all of those things that are just like, because a lot of times we are out doing these things solo, you know, and you can set yourself up with as much as you can, but it's good to have people that know where you're at and those kinds of things, because sometimes you can't just like call 911, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I think that's why I've had realtors reach out to me, because you guys are vulnerable from time to time. When you show houses, that's when it's dangerous.
Yeah, we're vulnerable more often than I like to think about, you know. And I can be, depending on the day, I'm either an anxious little bean and I just assume that everybody's out to get me, or I'm like, like come at me, bro, you know. And so the problem is those days when you're not super confident, like what kind of mindset should there be in people's heads as far as like you said, situational awareness, but just being like, you know, whether they've been trained or whether they like walking themselves through those steps of what if then, you know what I mean? If this happens, then this is what I'm going to do. And it's terrible to live like that, but it is something that I think is important to do.
You have to have this mindset here. I don't know if you guys can see it. I bet you can't.
I can't see it.
No, it wouldn't do it. So basically, it's you guys may have seen the cartoon. It's a bird swallowing a frog, and the frog, why his legs are hanging out of the bird's mouth, but his arms are coming out, and he's choking the bird. And the caption is "Don't ever give up."
Yeah.
So I always had a big poster of that at my dojo. You know, when I would have them fighting and they would want to give up. And so anyway, I've always liked that little cartoon. So you have to have that mindset going in. Some people, like my daughter's a good, I mean, I hate to pick on her, but she's so naive and she doesn't realize the evil in the world because I'd always protected and insulated her from it. And plus she's a lot smarter than me, obviously, because she's a college graduate. But she's never seen the evil in the world. And I try to talk to her, say, look, these predators, these apex predators, they don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care if you're a lady 8 months pregnant. They don't care if you're a 5-year-old child. They don't care. Whatever they have to do to get what they need, whether it's sexual, you know, or money or whatever. So they don't care. So you have to always remember that. And so my joke has always been, I trust 2 people. One is me and the other one ain't you. So if you have that mindset, it's nothing ugly. It's just, if you always, as far as if you're not trusting, if you always question everything, then you'll never be surprised or disappointed. So you have to go into things that way. Always look for improvised weapons every room you go into. If I go in somewhere, I mean, I always have a gun. I never do not have a gun. It's just me. But I always look for improvised weapons in any place I go. I always look for exits, different exits. My wife and daughter was at East. What's the mall in Charlotte that they have so much trouble at?
South. No.
There's one in particular.
Not South.
Which is it?
Is it
North
South
Lake?
Park or is it? I was going to say
Concord,
North Lake.
Lakes.
Concord Mills usually.
I think it's North Lakes Mall. North Lakes Mall. They have a lot of gang activity there. So they were down there to look for a dress for my daughter one time for a prom or something at this formal place. And they were in a restaurant in the mall eating, and all of a sudden shots rang out in the mall. So everybody's running by the front. Okay. My wife calls me hysterical. Shots fired in the mall. And I said, where are you at? The one time she's listened to me, she don't listen to anything I say, but she had listened to me. She said, we went out through the kitchen and out the back door, and they were hiding behind the air conditioning unit with all of the staff who had also abandoned everyone in the restaurant. but she knew not to run with the mob.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go out and run with the mob. So she went out the back, and then so slowly I talked her. I told her, I said, don't have your phone in your hand because the law enforcement's going to sweep the building inside and out. Don't have a dark object in your hand. I worked her to her car and out of the parking lot. It was some kind of thing at the Hollister store. Somebody shot something. Anyway, it wasn't an active shooter at least. But so my point is, what was my point in that? Forgot what I was talking about. Oh, don't ever give up,
Yeah.
I guess. But anyway, so you have to be proactive. Look for different exits. I know that the realty thing, you want to do the same thing in the house. Be aware of how to get out of that house if you're cornered. Always have your secondary escape routes and all that. That's kind of common sense. I mean, you two seem to be on top of that. Some are not.
And that's the
You know,
scary
some
part.
are not.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I would say I was somewhat the opposite of your daughter because I am college educated, but not. I don't always think I'm smarter than my dad. Depends on the topic, but I am. If people ever go on a date with me or go to dinner, I'm always looking at the exit. I don't keep my back to or the entrance. Like I am that high alert. I am okay, which way are we getting out of here? What's the weapon in the room if I'm not personally carrying right now for some reason? Like I can't stand it. Like I went on vacation with my sister once and she was that woman fumbling with a car seat. And I had my eye on these guys since we checked in the night before. 2 single men, no one with them, a luggage cart full of kids' stuff. Mm-hmm. But not a car that had a car seat in it. And I just kept, I was like this, and it was Nashville. I'm like, okay, huge human trafficking area. So, all right, let's alert. And literally my nephew ran off at one point and I ran after him. And as soon as I grabbed him, they pulled out of that parking lot so fast. And my sister had no idea. So I think your point of like, you have to be aware of your surroundings no matter where you are. And especially as a woman, because I hate to say it, unfortunately, there is evil in this world. And even if you live in the nicest neighborhoods. There was a murder in Charlotte in one of the high-end apartment complexes when I first moved here. The guy was stalking her for months. So you just have to, and I don't want you to think everyone's evil, but you have to pay close attention.
I can give you a real quick story. I know we're limited on time. I had a lady in my concealed carry class a couple years ago with her father. She was about 25, very attractive, blonde, and she allows me to share this story now. She worked at the Conover Walmart. For those familiar, to me, that's the better of the two Walmarts. Hickory's where all the knuckleheads hang out. So Conover's like the better of the two Walmarts. Okay, she would go in and work in the morning. She had a 3-year-old. This particular morning, she pulled in, and she pulled in front of a light pole. And we were talking earlier about backing in the driveway at the realty or at the house you're showing. Never pull up to an immovable object. Always give yourself a way out. But she pulled up to a light pole. These two guys pulled in and T-boned behind her in a U-Haul rental van. This is about 2 years ago, daylight at Conover Walmart, and one on each window. They were going to take her. They had already picked her. They were beating the window. Fortunately, they didn't know how to break door glass. It's not as easy as you think it is. So she started screaming, blowing on the horn. They eventually jumped back in the van and left. That was a decoy vehicle because the cameras in the parking lot. What they do is they'll snatch the person, go to their primary vehicle, dump that one, get on interstate. It always happens near interstates. Okay, I was telling that story about 3 months ago in a concealed carry. A guy in the back said, I remember that. That was one of our U-Haul vans in Hickory. They had come that night, stole that van. They went straight to the Conover Walmart because they had already picked her because they had patterned her.
They knew where she was going to be and what time.
They knew exactly where she was going to be. They were going to snatch her. And then they get on interstate. She would be out of the state or out of the country in 48 hours.
Yep.
That makes sense?
It's terrifying. And
and that's Conover Walmart.
And
right?
Charlotte is a hotbed for trafficking because we have, 1, so many highways out, and 2, we have an international airport. You can literally be gone in hours.
A lot of people don't realize
terrifying.
at one point statistics change. Catawba County, I know, was top 5 in the state for abductions.
That's
counties.
terrifying.
People have no idea. So anyway, so that's I work with 2 different nonprofits, one in Hickory and one in Mount Holly. They deal with sex trafficking and finding girls They get them two ways. One is just outright just forcible abduction, like what they're trying to do at Carnival Walmart. The other is boyfriending. A boy will befriend a girl, date her, get her experimenting with drugs, get her hooked on something like heroin, and then will lead them away. Lady I work with, I trained their whole security or their whole group of volunteers on. I did a 2-hour seminar on self-defense because they go into bad places. They go into, I think, 15 different strip joints in Charlotte. They have an agreement with the owner, and the ladies go in there and they administer to the strippers because a lot of them are victims of domestic violence. And then the men volunteers, they stay in the parking lot for security. And so I trained all that whole group. So she recently found one from Catawba County in Pittsburgh that had been boyfriended and led away voluntarily. That she was being set up for sex trafficking, and so she has military vets that are volunteers. They went up there and took her by force and brought her back to her family. But she's a heroin addict.
Oh God.
She was.
And
So
that's unfortunately how they get them to comply. Is
exactly.
they get them
So
addicted
anyway,
to
I don't know what the
substances.
ending will be for that, but
Right.
I'm sorry. So go
No,
ahead.
that's okay.
No,
We've just about wrapped up. So the only two questions we have left, of course, anybody
Okay.
locally here in Catawba County or in North Carolina, because I know you travel, we'd love to get the best contact information for you for personal safety and self-defense classes, and quick ideas of where to find reputable self-defense classes for the listeners that are across the country and not, next door neighbors of ours.
Look for if as far as for self-defense or what we're talking about, look for a school or instructor that deals in reality training. So nothing against the traditional martial arts. I mean, I did that for a long, long time. But the traditional martial arts don't necessarily always deal with reality training for the street. So look for Krav Maga is a good type of training to have. Muay Thai is good. Jiu-Jitsu is great, but it deals more on the ground. There's nothing wrong with it. You need to train on the ground too, but if you're defending yourself against somebody on the ground with jiu-jitsu and they have someone with them, which they always do, well, that's not going to end well for you. So I think Krav Maga, Muay Thai, those are good all-around things. Google it and look for reviews on your instructors. I know personally of several instructors not far from here that are not trustworthy. One in particular tends to spend extra time with the female students, if you know what I mean. So I would never ever send anybody to him. Not going to tell his name, but that's the kind of thing you got to watch for on that.
Right.
What else was it? What was the other question?
Where to contact you. So I think your website is simplecombatsolutions.com.
Simple Combat Solutions. And then on Facebook, I have Simple Combat Solutions LLC on Facebook, and my personal page on Facebook under Keith Sigmon. It's all business stuff. And I post things daily on those two sites. The website is not updated that much with pictures. It's a ton of pictures, but so you can register online for stuff, or just call me directly if you want to set up something.
Perfect.
Okay.
Brenda, where's she been? Brenda, why have you not introduced me to her? I mean,
I've talked about you a lot. I really have. So I'll text her your phone number and everything. I actually
down in Gastonia, where we have 3 Walmarts, and I won't go to any of them if I don't have to.
Oh, Gastonia is the Wild West. It's gotten terrible.
Someone got shot at our Walmart yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It was road rage, and they started shooting.
Road rage is really bad.
Yeah, they started shooting at each other in the Walmart.
We have a
parking
75-year-old in jail now that just shot a man about 2 weeks ago. Road rage and terror. Shot him in the back. And then shot the car full of rounds. So he's got 1 degree of first-degree murder, three counts of attempted first-degree murder because there's 3 children in that car. And the man's in jail, and he's showing no emotion whatsoever. That's 75 years old. Terrible.
Okay, so as we wrap this up, we know where to find you. You've given us some great advice. But if there was one tip, one thing that you would tell realtors, like a safety tip today, what would that be? Like if you could only tell us to do one thing.
One thing. Make sure, I can't do just one thing.
They all lead together.
Make sure family members or something knows where you're at, that you're going to be showing a house. Peripheral awareness. Don't have your back turned on the person. Have some type of weapon. I don't know what realty companies' policies are. Me personally, I don't care about policies. I always have a weapon. You can worry about the other consequences later, but always have a way to defend yourself.
That's perfect. We
That's
really,
perfect.
really appreciate. I know we ran over a little on time of what we told you to
Yeah, I'm
expect,
sorry
but
about that.
no, it's
No,
totally our
that's
fault.
this.
We
If there
loved
was
it.
any topic I would want to run over on, I
It's
think
this
this is one
one.
of them
Mhm.
because this is a very, very important topic. So,
So we appreciate you coming out today. Again, we'll have contact information for Keith in the show notes for you guys if you want to take a look at the website, set up a training session or self-defense classes, anything like that for our local people. And other than that, we will see you guys next week. We just finished another episode of Contracts and Chaos, but believe me, the chaos does not stop here. So check out the show notes for our email address and where to follow us on socials, and we will see you next week.